Okay, we're getting real weird.
Yeah, this is weird. What the fuck?
That's the title of this episode. A urethra is a urethra.
It's my turn for this one.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Hi, everybody. Nothing?
Perfect.
Great.
Exactly what I wanted. Thank you.
Amazing.
Good job, Xander. We planned this ahead of time. Okay, Drager's going to say hi, and we're going to exit the room.
There we go. Misfit Raider got it. Hi, Dr. Nick. Thank you. One of our patrons is paying more attention than the host.
Dr. Nick?
I know.
Is
sorry,
that
I
The
was
Simpsons?
juggling
Yes.
some Things.
Hi, everybody. Hi,
Hi,
Dr.
Dr.
Nick.
You didn't do it in an outrageous accent for me.
So
what's going
we've
on?
potentially talked about doing the parasocial relationship stuff, and it just kept getting punted because that was the right thing to do. So now it's time
Who
to do
is
it.
we, Dragor?
What do you mean we? Hi, I'm
Who are
Dragor.
we?
I am joined by my co-hosts Pepper Coyote
Hello.
and Xander the Blue.
Hey, how's it going?
Actually, I just realized, Xander, is that how you're doing your name intros still, or is that changing?
No, it's all good. Xander's fine.
Or are you slowly transitioning to Zanzan the Stabby?
Zan the Stabby Kobold? Well, no, I'm just Xan or Zandy, whenever you want. But I'm still officially Xander the Blue.
Xander
I'm just gonna
the
stick with that.
formerly blue.
No, Xander
You
is
should just
still
change-
blue.
You should change to like Xander the Red, but not change anything about your character. Like still be blue. And people are like, why is... And
If
just be
anything,
like, I
I'm less
refuse to
teal.
explain.
I'm more baby blue and like off yellow cream bullshit rather than the make your eyes bleed teal. So
I remember discovering the word teal when I got a Game Boy Color, and it was teal colored. And wow, I don't know why I was so focused and blown away that you could call like what is essentially blue, but also green. Like, oh no, there is a word for that, my son.
There are many
Teal.
different. Did you ever like go through and have discussions with friends about how wrong the certain Crayola crayon color names were?
Well, you had me up until the word friends.
Aww.
All right. I just lived in the middle of nowhere. It's not like as sad. I didn't have tons of friends in school, and it's partly just because nobody lived there. So like once you burned bridges with the 20 kids in your kindergarten, it's like, well, it will be only us seeing each other for the next 13 years.
Ooh.
Congratulations.
One of my favorite extreme metal bands, Gorgoroth, was fronted by a singer who came out as gay at like 34, 35.
mm-hmm.
And this guy was deemed very, very, very scary. He went to jail a couple of times.
He's been deemed scary.
You have been
Well,
deemed scary.
Because once he came out and he started doing like just being more of himself, you're like, oh, he's scary because, all right, the dude is capable of protecting himself. A rival gang in Norway or something like put a hit out on him, and he caught the guy in his house, and instead of just like turning him in or just outright killing him, he kept him tied to a chair in a basement for like 3 days before turning him into the cops, and that's why he went to jail.
I feel like I've heard this story.
Yes,
I think I have
this is Gal of Gorgoroth, and the notable thing that relates it to the school thing you said is they live in a spot where the only other kid his age, there was one other kid his age, and they graduate high school at 18, and the only other person he knew kills himself.
Jesus.
Oh.
What is it with those bands? They all have weird lore. Unlike like our American bands, like in Sweden, they're just like, yes.
It is Trans Day of Visibility, though, and we are a trans majority podcast, so I cede the floor.
I'm Dragor. I'm they, them, non-binary, agender. I say a lot of this with that raising the voice question tone, because it's new. I'm still figuring it out.
It's still year one for both of you, right? Like, at least in terms of,
Yeah.
like, outness.
Well, yeah.
Yes and no, because I was doing that. I'm an ally. I'm going to use they, them pronouns on my badges and everything for like 2 or 3 years now. And so like subconsciously, the subconscious is a lot far ahead of the conscious.
Totally.
Oh boy.
And you're both like, neither of you are like, quote, old, but you're both like grown people. You're definitely not at an age where anyone could say, oh, you're young and figuring things out. It's like, well, it's more like we're putting things into practice that we may have figured out a long time ago.
Yeah. I'm not as old as, say, I've only seen the first episode of Transparent as on Amazon, but I believe that character comes out in their 50s or 60s, and I actually I do want to see that series. But I am 40 and I am going through this now, so later in life, and this is all because of new information. I did not know that transition was available to non-binary people or those who do not fully identify one way. So that's what started me on my whole path. That new information. So that is visibility, and you know that's why this is so important.
See, that's interesting in that you encountered that information, and then it's like it's a revelation, right?
It was, yeah. I didn't know, yeah, exactly.
Whereas I was in a therapist's office and encountered that information, and I did the same thing that I've always done when confronted with one of these things, be it, gay originally. I'm like, oh, well, I can appreciate a dick, but hey, at least I'm not gay. And I remember hearing about bottom surgery things to answer a lot of the problems and things I was talking about, and my response was just yeah, but I'm not trans. Like, just gut reaction.
But I'm not a woman, or I'm not fully girly, or this or that, or not femme enough. And that was my stopping gap for a lot of that stuff, because when I was brought up, I was very feminine, was taught to be bad. And I realize that now. It took me a lot of it took me a lot of evaluating my surroundings growing up to realize that, it was very much that way.
Yeah, I think the first time somebody brought out how just the idea of like what is the most hate in big quotes, like the most hated little subsect of American cultures, and somebody brought, I think it was Lindsay Ellis, they brought up like, it'd be like what teen girls like. And then maybe try to examine, why do we all hate teen girl things so much? Like Justin Bieber is like a teen girl thing, and people go, fuck him. I want it, like, it's teen boy things. We make blockbuster movies about that. We're all going to watch the Transformers Michael Bay movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, basically, what I hear from don't be a pussy. Oh, look at that. Like, don't look at it, so girly, this, that, like, constantly, like, that meant bad. Which even my mom fed into that.
Why is it so much grosser in, like, general opinion to, like, be into Twilight as opposed to being into, what's like I'm trying to think of the schlock, like, flipped gender equivalent, which it's hard to because teen boy culture is just mainstream pop culture, like everything. Call of Duty. There you go, Call of Duty.
Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel is teen boy culture, but teen girl culture is put in this horrible
it's fascist
box.
Power fantasies and a lot of muscles, but hey, we're not gay. And they're in spandex, but hey, we're not gay. Mm-hmm. And they get the girl, but the guy's more important than the girl. But you got to have the girl because hey, we're not gay.
It's fun living at a point where the Judeo-Christian values that we've all kind of been told are just this is how it is and it will always be forever are getting so publicly and commonly questioned. That's neat.
Well, and then let's bring it to capitalism. So I'm in tech and like programming, being at the keyboard or switchboard operators doing the tech of our telecom systems was somehow deemed women's work. And like they invent like programming. My entire career is a series of women that laid all of the groundwork. Yes, this comes with asterisks, but like that's what it was. And it wasn't until basically banks and money were like, we're going from paper and going to computers, and now we need a man to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if you're in the elementary school band, if you're in the band world, try to explain to me how we've gendered every instrument in the band.
Oh, Jesus
when did
Christ.
a clarinet become a feminine instrument? When did the trumpet become a masculine instrument? Like, it's completely arbitrary
because
and
the
random.
trumpet is like farting, and you're supposed to brag about how loud of a sound comes out of your ass. And all the woodwind is in your mouth. Wood in your mouth is gay, so that's got to be a woman's role.
Yeah, that's why you got to learn like you got to learn like English horn. Or that's why all the fun goth kids would learn like bassoon or like weird instruments that they haven't been claimed Funny, tuba. Tuba is one of the most gender equitable instruments in my collegiate experience. It was like half and half guys and girls getting into tuba.
One, tuba is a fun word to say.
Yeah, it is.
It
Don't play the
is.
big one.
Is tuba does anyone here or in the chat type it out? Post some translations, of tuba. Is it as fun to say in other languages as it is English?
I'm immediately trying to think, like, what is German for tuba? I know that the fun thing is, what is it? I think Germans still call the trombone like the sax butt or something close.
The sax
That's a great
butt?
sax butt. Sax butt is the
sax
predecessor. It's the predecessor to the trombone. That's just his actual name, and it's still called. I'm pretty sure one of them, like French horns, are called like fagette, but written in English.
Oh no!
You're just like out
What
there.
the fuck?
You're looking at a score like, what is this? Oh, it's the right. Of course.
Not the
It's not
sound of the
instrument
gaze. Or is it?
This isn't hateful Mozart, is it?
This is not metal Mozart.
Metal Mozart.
I mean, we have
Hey,
that now.
a lot of heavy metal took inspiration from German composers, so
Oh yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Back to the whole visibility thing. I want to quick shout out to people I watch, like James Stephanie Sterling, who came out as trans NB and mentioned that they're going on HRT, and I was like, oh, and I didn't know, like, oh, well, they're NB, but they're still going on HRT. I didn't know that was I didn't know that was an option, or just that, it's just like that people are identifying NB and still transitioning was another visibility. Oh, that's a thing it's an option that's out there. And when people know that options are out there, they're more free to come out with who they are. So
There is an excellent ContraPoints video Natalie Wynn did that I watched a while ago that I kind of want to watch again. And it was around and like related to the whole you're being shit on Twitter. You're canceled. She's not.
Not currently.
But it was the Trans Trenders video.
yeah.
And like that one in particular planted a lot of seeds for answering my fears of, okay, I've been doing this neutral pronouns thing. I believe in it from an intellectual standpoint that neutral first is just more inclusive, but there's more things bubbling up, and I've always been afraid because my history is like the first time I came out did not go well. So like every step of the way, on the one hand, you're told, who gives a shit what other people think, right up until what they think might come with physical consequences.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Dragger, don't forget. I talked about bottom surgery for myself for a long time, but I told you like, oh, I would consider that, but I know that's not an option. But I wish I could just get it done and nobody else would know. And it just showed you how much I cared about that fear.
keeping people's personal choices personal. Like it. I mean, I remember the first time someone articulated to me, because if you're just like coming from complete normie, cut from whole cloth, regular American liberal ideology that most people are working with, where how it used, like, I remember me using to think when I first heard about trans people as a concept, my brain immediately went to, yeah, but is there a penis or not? Like, that's all I would ever think. I was like, but what about the genitals? And then eventually someone just said, like, that's not really anybody's business. Like, I don't understand. And
Unless
it just
it's
immediately
your
clicked.
business, it's not your business.
It just clicked immediately. I'm like, I have never been in a situation where not never, but I can't name many situations where that's relevant or going to be exposed either way. Because you don't walk up to people and grab them in the pants.
Like 99.9% of your interactions do not involve your genitals. So
I can tell you the following. The most time what is in your pants has come up as a logistics thing where decisions have to be made. You are on the road or you are snowmobiling and you have to bathroom break, and it's a little bit more effort if you can't just whip it out.
true.
Yeah, that, maybe if you're applying a climbing harness, you might to your
Yeah,
to your
like,
crotch
hey,
region.
do we have to worry about injuring your balls?
Like, are there balls I gotta get around here?
Oh
Can I
my
just
God.
fucking tighten this?
Like that. All right, we've come up with two things
Yeah.
out of all of the things.
Pretty niche.
I will miss the efficiency, not gonna lie.
I've been meaning to ask you that, Xander. Like, are you prepared?
I mean, come on. It's a pain. Of course.
Fucking, you just gotta get one of those like coffee funnels and.
Yeah, the fucking, like, what do you call?
They are called STP. They are stand to pee packers. And if you want to know more about that, I will gladly introduce you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in
Might
one
have
way,
to.
shape, or in one form or another, like, they technically work, but you might deem it too much nuance and frustration to put
I
up
probably
with it.
will not usually do that, but yes. Anyway,
Unless, like,
Jesus Christ.
I was
what
going
is
to say,
this?
unless you're really into sounding and then
Now
you
we're
just want to
talking
be
about
like, have a
pee.
tube packed in, and you're like,
You
aha, I can still do it.
You could still sound. A urethra is a urethra. Okay, we're getting real weird.
Yeah, this is weird. What the fuck?
That's the title of this episode. A urethra is a urethra.
Yup, that is. That should absolutely be the title. Somebody write it down. Fucking a catheter. Yes.
I know it's called a catheter, but if it's not attached to a bag, you can still paint your name in the snow.
So we had a listener question that was mailed into us through our email address. By the way, if you want
I
to
even pasted that. I forgot about it.
If you want to ask us a question, you can email us at, well, if you go to lastminutepolitics.com, like no punctuation or anything, lastminutepolitics.com, you'll find all of our links. If you want to give us Patreon money, get it there. Twitter, we put stuff on YouTube. We have an email address. All of it is available there. Check it out. Our listener question today is from Roman C. And I bring this up now because we're kind of talking about different kinds of labels, but here's this. They say, I've been listening to your podcast since the beginning, and I've been really enjoying it. It's provoked a lot of thought and also been very entertaining. You mentioned at one point that you take questions. Here's a question. What, in quotes, label would you be most aligned with politically speaking? And how did you arrive at your current alignment? And then have a good day. Thank you very much, Roman. I hope you have a good day, too. So, not talking about gender identity, but about political affiliation identity. Does anyone have one to go, or me?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Give it time.
Yes, depending on how old to go.
Yep.
I was definitely a liberal in 2004. But
I was
also
a
like
meritocracy
15.
capitalist, y'all.
I was 13. What was I? I didn't even. I was 13 and I knew I didn't like George W.
If you're of a certain age and you were like figuring out queerness, hating W was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like actually the first election didn't go on with the queerness. That was a weird fucking election, and I didn't even have that many opinions about it. But anyway, like I wasn't politically engaged yet.
So what are you now? What do you most identify with now?
Yes, that was the question. I'm so sorry. So now, obviously the left. I say socialist or SocDem or DemSoc. I know there's a difference. I don't quite understand that.
Democratic Socialist. Yeah.
But
that's
anyway,
a good
like, yeah, more of a Bernie style, because I think that's the most realistic one of being accomplished. And I guess I guess I'm a Bernie.
If I'm not wrong, I think it's that a democratic socialist practices social democracy. Like, I want social democracy. Therefore, I think that's how it works, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
So,
okay.
like, my thing, I don't, there's so many effing labels and like no one knows what any of them mean. So I've chosen my two X and Y axes of well, they're not even X and Y axes because they don't touch each other, of like the political way, the way I try to think of these in big swaths, because there's so many labels and people have different interpretations. Like, wow, say socialism, no one agrees on what that word means. So I think of things in either you're capitalist or anti-capitalist, and then from there you either go towards authoritarian or libertarian.
Yeah.
So I am a anti-capitalist, libertarian anti-capitalist, which would be as opposed to an authoritarian anti-capitalist, which is closer to. So authoritarian means you want a strong central government and possibly a central leader figure that then tells you what to do, and the state has lots of control over you. Libertarian is the opposite. I don't want capitalism, but I also do not want the state to have really much power over me at all. Like, I don't like the cops. I think the president should not be a job anyone has. I don't think any single person should be a leader, like have that much power. Political parties, like everything else kind of comes from that. My desire for the state to be not able to dominate me financially, economically.
I always get... Go ahead, Dragger.
Well, all right. So I don't know. I'll say socialist. I'll say democratic socialist. The more I look into it, the more like, oh, yeah, that really sounds like some form of communist. Obviously, incredibly anti-capitalist. Capitalism is inherently unethical because it's saying money is the most important thing. No, a human life is. So anyone who argues that can fuck off. But the part I have issue with is like, okay, day to day, I agree. I'm probably a more on the libertarian side of things because that's the freedom I want. But in practice, I don't know what structure needs to be in place to stop the abuses that individuals or small groups when they coordinate. So like if everyone's living in harmony, you're fine. It's when the bad actors get together to disrupt it. And if they're more organized, they're going to fuck you up. So like the obvious answer to that is to have a codified system that has the power to react to a bad actor in that way. So, like, that's clearly authoritarian to some degree. But, like, I don't want that organization, like, dictating the path of life. I want it to say, we've agreed to give power to this organization to step in when an unknown, powerful thing shows up to fuck up the ideals we have.
You make it temporary.
A loose hand.
Yeah, it's in my thing. It'd be like, well, if there is a thing going on that the community is against, you then rally your neighbors, and you and your neighbors form a temporary angry mob to go deal with
it's
the
Twitter.
thing. Yeah, but if it's on a personal neighbor level,
there are a lot of systemic and social and like just from a project management organizational thing that keeping that transient is on its own, kind of by default, a vulnerability to the organized groups. Or like the organized groups will exploit that as a vulnerability.
Well, I was going to say one thing real quick is I'd say we're in general against hierarchies in like, especially in the big terms of Bezos has all the money.
unjustified hierarchies, yeah.
Oh,
totally.
yeah, unjustified hierarchy. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, totally.
Right, what Pepper just started saying it. A justified hierarchy is, I don't know shit about farming, so maybe as far as national planning on how to use a limited resource, I shouldn't have as much of a say as the fucking scientists that dedicated their lives to agricultural development.
What? Trust in,
Our hierarchy is
in
justified by money.
expertise? What is this bullshit? It's not the America I know. Well, can't trust those eggheads. They don't know how to run a business. Fuck. Sorry, I'm sounding like my dad.
If you had to pick a big word to throw me into, the one I like the most is Anarcho-Syndicalism. The idea being it's anarchy, but not anarchy like the Republicans say, which is like not liking capitalism.
It's like furry
not having a
convention
government.
anarchy.
Seriously,
Yes.
the first thing I heard of anarchy was like Mad Max. Like I think that's how it was sold to me.
Capitalism is getting us closer to Mad Max than any anarchist ever has.
You bet
You're
you're
not wrong.
All the complaints people say that anarchy would lead to are what currently is happening.
Joe
under
Biden comes
system.
out and he's like, "Do not become addicted to water."
Oh my God, it is Immortan Joe. Holy shit.
And Morton Joe's here. Oh shit.
But I caucus with the Democratic Socialists. I think that is I am perfectly happy. Like if after all of our shenanigans, what we end up is America being a lot closer to Sweden, that's still better. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my spot. What about either of you? Do you both just demsock? Do you have a different word you want to throw out for yourself?
Honestly, I personally say the word that as of whatever the situation is, seems to, one, have the least baggage attached, and two, more importantly, has the most positive energy attached. So Bernie Sanders tapped into a lot of energy in the way a lot of people were feeling, and he is a Democratic socialist. So I say that because that has the highest chance of anyone understanding what the fuck it is I want, even like 25% of the way.
Same.
Yeah.
Agree. All right, next, boom. Let's keep these topics rolling. Look at us. That was a nice clean end.
All right, so
Jaguar, go for it.
yeah, parasocial relationships. I'm not going to do the standard YouTube of let's bring up the definition of a parasocial relationship.
Well, what is a parasocial relationship? There you go.
But the lay term that I will give as far as like for anyone who doesn't know what we're about to talk about, it's essentially a misalignment between two people on what the relationship between them is. So if
people
you
think
are,
they know you and they don't.
yes, and like the greatest example, you know, the most extreme example, you could say the not going to abduct you stalkers, just like way too into you obsession stalkers, is the most extreme form of a parasocial relationship because they get to see everything you do, and you as the person putting stuff out there has sometimes no idea of the other person.
Yeah.
So like what we just did today on this podcast, for especially between Xander and I, we just gave a bunch of intimate details about ourselves and our lives and our journeys. These are things that before the internet you wouldn't get access to unless you really knew someone. So there's like there was a presumption of friendship. But we're out there, we're on Twitter, and follower count, by the way, has no value as far as like your worth as a person. It's just a measure of how many people might be seeing the thing you say. So Xander, and especially you, Pepper, there's a lot of people that think they know a lot more about you just because they see you post personal things or detailed things, or they just straight up have a track record and can say, oh yeah, I remember when Pepper did X, Y, and Z 4 years ago. And you, Pepper, might not even remember that because you have a lot more moments in between. They have just what you talked about. Right. That's the premise. The first question I want to, so there's a couple of different groups. There's group chats, small social groups, Twitter, and then bigger groups, which I'm just putting in the convention bucket. So I want to jump right into the paragon of. This is something I think a lot of furries in their small groups have some experience with. And so the biggest of this example is I'm going to go with Boozy Badger. Is Boozy Badger the only furry lawyer?
Yeah.
Xander, Pepper?
No, he is not.
No.
It's funny because there's like a furry lawyer like clique now.
There is.
They all talk to each other.
Yes. Which is fine.
Yeah.
But
it's just interesting. I'm not laughing because it's wrong.
The reason I asked,
you wouldn't expect it.
Depending on how you look at Twitter, if you follow various furry Twitters, or especially in like any of the convention circuit Twitter, you might go, oh, it's just Boozy. Or if there's others, like they're not as successful as Boozy. Like there's all these weird misattributions to it.
Oh, sure.
Or Xander, in your Drag It Show Telegram group, how many times are you tagged with dragon things that don't actually directly relate to you, who you are, or what you are currently doing?
Oh my God, you have no idea. I get so much Furby. I get so much Furby shit. You have no idea.
Well, so there's one that it is related to you. That is based on a bit you did.
That is a bit I did, but you're right. Dragon things here, Xander. Look, absolutely, you're right.
You know, if fur is in a group or just on Twitter at large, a common parasocial trope that many people participate with in fur is transformation, TF.
Yeah.
It's a bit. It's a shtick. But depending on the group you're in, there's nothing saying someone can't post something about TF in a group if that's in the group's rules. But why does everyone have to go out of their way to tag fur as if they're some kind of authority or paragon?
Yeah.
So, like, Xander or Pepper, do you have a version of that like, you just witnessed it for the first time, or you went, that's weird, Like, what was your first time going, something is mismatched here?
The worst part is I literally did that. I tagged Fur because I'm like, haha, Fur, check this shit out. And I didn't think of it as in like that way. But yeah, god damn it. Anyway.
See, what you have to do is choose a character like coyotes. There's only like 5 pictures of coyotes on the whole internet, and they've all already been sent to me. So I'm excited if someone finds a new cute coyote picture, because like none. Nobody gives a shit about coyotes. If you're a wolf or a fox, oh my god,
Dragon, what was
all
the
over
question?
place.
What was
Talk
your
about times we have?
your experience with that type of parasocial interaction being the paragon of dragons, the paragon of kobolds? You are the authority on all things Furbies, Ander. When did you first notice it?
Honestly, the first time I had a weird parasocial relationship, I created the RPG Maker Pavilion, and that was like the hub for RPG Maker shit. And I had this weird cult of personality, people looking up to me for creating this thing, and that was always there, and it was weird. And so I first got that taste of that, and it is weird and uncomfortable because you are put on a pedestal for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just in the background, and like, but they think they know everything about you, but like you were saying before.
I don't want to kick off of the topic and tell me if this is too much. Like, I don't want to go digress into this, but just kind of explain how I think about it. Like, these phenomenon are, I believe, cultivated by the market. It's not like the market made us start doing it, but people noticed that it was happening, and now we're encouraged to form parasocial relationships with fucking Wendy's. Like, that's what Twitter is. Twitter is all these brands who are trying to be like, we're not a product you buy, we're a friend you have.
They are
Nabisco. They do. Oh, it's a lifestyle.
Dragger.
Triscuits are a lifestyle now.
I want to get into what you were saying, because what you were saying when I first, what was that experience like, as far as you realize sometimes that you might be doing things because you realize you have an audience, and you're like, oh wait, am I doing things for the right reasons? And you hear what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
are you being objectified by your own audience because they think of you as a product, and the only product things they know are dragon? Here's dragon picture.
Yeah.
TF.
So
they're the brand of TF skunks. So here's
so let's get into because the hybridization of it is just, it's what people sometimes do because that's how they are, or it's a marketing thing because they realized it's a brain hack. So I very specifically, whenever I do any of this, I am as coarse as I can be with it. I have said the phrase in chat to people several times, I'm sorry, we are not that familiar.
Yeah.
The opposite of that is Wendy's going, are you part of the Wendy's family?
Yeah.
The fuck does that mean? It is literally it is baiting that thing in your brain when someone says you are their chosen family. Like, especially in furry, that's a very important thing. There's a lot of us that once we turn 18, that's the freedom to get out from abuse or just people that don't care. For a lot of people, myself included, furry is a chosen family. So to have a fucking brand say, you're part of our family, you're part of the Xbox brigade, you're part
oh my god. Gamers are the biggest, not the biggest, the most extreme, but probably the largest group that like the horribly abusive industry that is the mainstream game, the AAA game industry, has made a parasocial relationship with its own fans. Like, how many people get on? Why the hell would you get on the internet and defend Ubisoft, a corporation who doesn't give a shit about you?
So, as much as I'm fascinated by that topic, I'm going to draw a line there and say that is a different part of it that I don't as much want to get into.
Well, if I made it about the brand of smaller ones, the brand of me.
Well, so what you're talking about in particular, like when the people come to rep for Elon Musk or Microsoft for whatever fucking reason, or Nvidia, like I used to do back in the day, as if I had any insight other than what careful PR they release. That's more like standing for a brand, which in itself is also weird.
I mean the emotional kernel of you perceiving them as a friend. Because if people perceive me as their personal friend, even though we've never met, and I say something that would upset them, it's going to hit way harder than if, oh, that is a musician that exists. No, that is my friend who comes to my Thanksgiving, like in your mind. That's not, and this is
Right.
like all ape lizard brain shit. It's not consciously deciding this. It just I had somebody on a podcast leave, completely unrelated to any of us. And I sat there and it hit me like they had been killed. And I'm like, no, they just aren't on the podcast. And I was like, why am I feeling this hard about this complete rando who I've never met in my whole life?
So that aspect, like what the person that is, I don't want to say too involved, but I guess that's kind of what we're going with, or that has more emotional stake than perhaps the detached reading of the evidence would imply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, how many times have any of us seen someone how many of us have seen someone get chastised for it and then seen that person, like, completely break down or take deep offense to that? Like, I don't know about y'all, but I've had someone say to me, like, as a rebuttal to when I said, hey, we're not that familiar, this I thought we were friends. And like I did not handle it.
You just
I don't
watch
know
my
how to handle it
stuff.
best, but I'm like, well, I talk to my friends regularly. I see them in person as much as I can, and I play games with them when I can. When did we do that? And then I got blocked.
Wow.
You can't be just a creator of things. Like, imagine trying to be like, I'm going to make movies and that's it. And there is no element where anyone should start attaching emotional values to. It's impossible. That's just how we operate now. That's just how at least US culture is. You can't just be a baker. You have to be like, here's all the emotional reasons why you should want to buy my bread.
Jesus
Not just,
Christ,
here is
yes.
good bread.
Yeah.
You
So
can't just make bread.
It's like, I make bread and I come from a broken home, like or some shit. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah.
Or you're just going out of business in a week if
They
you
have
don't.
to
Like,
give
you
you the
got
reason.
the market dictates.
Yeah.
Well, fucking, never. That's a different
I'm
thing.
about
The
to
whole
make
recipes
something-
put the stories to make them copyrightable.
Say it,
Keep
say
going.
it, Dragger.
Oh, someone said, role model or hero, and I'm about to make it about wrestling. It's why one of my favorite heels or villains in wrestling is identifying themselves as a role model. Like, yes, kill your heroes. So the market aspect of parasocial relationships is specifically geared against, they don't want us to talk about boundaries. And the obvious answer to all of this is to just be as bare and blunt as you can about boundaries.
I just realized something, but you
Yes?
go ahead, Dragger. Sorry.
I was going to say, I lost it. Now you go. Damn it.
God damn it. I'm so sorry. Okay. So here's my realization. I swear it's worth it before it's gone. It's that fucking big. Okay. The big boys say, someone you watch, Pepper. I can't remember. It says, oh, my friends, you are my family.
Philip DeFranco.
Yeah.
Philip DeFranco. I liked him a lot, but he
exactly.
started saying family, and I hate it.
Right?
Stop saying family.
And that is a thing that happened in
Phil,
the 70s,
if I can't pay my
apparently.
car.
Like the personalization of The Office and saying we are a family, we are together in this, that started in the 70s.
Right when the unions started
apparently.
going away.
What's up?
As soon as they started getting rid of unions. Crazy.
Yeah, right? We are all in,
wow.
in this and we are all a family or some shit. It's like, fucker, you're not my family. And so they will push that because it works for the marketing aspect. So like to get the monies, they know they can hit that vein. You were saying it always has to be a story.
Totally.
Like, here's this person and here's why you should care about them. And I don't know if
Have you
that's
ever
a
had
human thing that we need to validate. Unfortunately, it's like that, and think how gross that is.
Have you ever had someone explain to you why their firing was justified?
Yes.
I've had people who like the shitty, I've known friends who work at Walmart and they are in a completely messed up way, not working at Walmart anymore. And they will walk you through why in their mind, they've justified to themselves why, oh, well, you see, Walmart had to help Walmart. So it's really, I'm not even
Because the
we are
alternative
so many
is
levels of
acknowledging
propagandized.
how powerless and fucked you are. And that is
Absolutely.
like, all right, I'm going to make this dark a little bit. So
go ahead.
this is a trigger warning for everyone here. I'm
dear.
shocked I'm able to do this right now. This is a suicide trigger warning. A very dear
That's
friend
fair.
of mine killed himself. I talked about it at closing ceremonies of First Squared 2020. We had not found him. We didn't know where he was. And that happened. And in the note was opting out of society because he was systematically fucked. Like, I have never met someone who has had so many jobs and bad jobs on top of it, abusive jobs, day in, day out. The little bit of help that he was able to get from myself and like everyone around, he was getting help, but like the oppression of the system leaning into it because he did see it for that. There was no more rationalizations. He never really was the type of person that would do it. So, like, I am not surprised to hear about many people justify the abuse that capitalism does to them because that is shaping the narrative. That is taking ownership of the narrative and your destiny. It is that same vigor that, as Xander's pointed out, that the self-help right-wing industry taps into constantly.
That's the thing. It's a bitter, bitter pill.
Yes.
It all works in tandem, right?
Yes.
You have the problem, they sell you the problem, then they sell you the solution, and like none of it ever actually does anything. It just helps you live with, I guess, until you fucking die from
I
your
watch
situation.
and study, and I have delved into self-help for a long time. My dad gave me 8 habits of highly effective people, all that shit. I've followed Tony Robbins, all that stuff. What's interesting about it is, and I think it's all bullshit, by the way, but what's interesting about it is the way the best way I've heard described is says when you're in that room, they are selling that feeling that you will feel that way forever, that you will carry that feeling with you, and that feeling of we are all succeeding right now in this room because we're here. And it's the present bias weirdness of we're in this, we're winning right now. And it's a product. It's gross. And it is what it is. So
I think part of the way to move forward and this obviously comes with certain job risks. If you are doing this at a job, I won't lie, for what I'm about to say, my heart skipped a beat several times over the past several years at this current role, is, as I was saying this about the parasocial relationship stuff, is drawing boundaries. So I am very lucky and privileged to have the role I do and be in tech, but that still, I have lost jobs because I have been outspoken. I have been fired not because my work was bad, but because I was agitating the status quo.
yeah.
And a big part of that is I would do it very angrily, so that was causing further friction. But like, so I'm part of the interview team at my day job now. I am in like the worst, most disgusting position of power over people's lives that is just possible for where I'm at without actually being in control. Like I'm being used as a pawn.
You don't work for FEMA or anything, at least.
No. But I went through
Private
the list
company.
of questions, and I went through. I rewrote how I said it several ways. But like one of the questions they wanted to ask a candidate was, "Who's your biggest inspiration?" Fuck off.
Yeah.
1, it's irrelevant. 2, the answer you think you're getting out of it means you think way more about yourself than you are actually, like, you didn't train to be a sociologist or a psychologist. That's not going to tell you anything other than buy into your confirmation biases.
They just start
But
bringing
what if
up
they just said
inkblot
Joseph
tests, right? For your fucking job interview.
We had a section of our questions that were labeled emotional intelligence, and not a single person involved writing this has a degree relevant to that.
Yeah.
And this is in the job situation where I was able to actually affect change and get that crap out of there because I phrased it straight up from the, well, what does that have to do with writing test automation code? What does that have to do with being on our team? What you're asking for, you don't actually care about their answer because we as a team are already dictating these things. All you need to know is when you tell them that, are they okay with it? And they're probably going to lie to you and say yes anyway because I even brought this up. This is my back patting moment. I said, well, given the power dynamic of how hiring goes, all of these answers for these questions are irrelevant because any smart interviewer is going to feed you what you want.
Is stealing from the company wrong? Yes.
You wouldn't download a car.
Yeah, I would.
No.
What if
You're
that was a
hired.
job interview question?
The,
Holy shit.
the biggest weakness and biggest strength. I'm like, get those out of there.
Oof.
And the big thing I leaned into that allowed me to
nothing.
say all of this, I'm like, well, to be clear, we've all been around the block for how many years in our careers? Who here actually knows how to hire someone with certainty? And no one raised their hand. Like, I asked that, and no one took the bait.
Oh,
But
man.
so, like,
I'm so glad that
that was a long-winded
Keep
way.
going.
I apologize. That was a long-winded way of saying, like, you have to enforce boundaries, be it in the corporate setting, in the job setting, you risk losing your job. But we're on Twitter, we're at FurCons. We all have the
I got
ability
fired.
to enforce and talk about boundaries outside of enforcement whenever we want.
yes.
It's
I'm
just
the
not
worst to talk
deemed-
about work boundaries because I get my advice. Like, I don't keep a lot of the like monotonous jobs I've had because usually I can't pretend, I can't look busy. I just can't do it. It's like, look busy, the boss is coming. I'm like, what do you do? I have no work to do. What do I do? It's like, just throw something on the ground and start cleaning it. Like, okay.
Hey,
What can I
Xander.
fuss?
What?
Hey, Xander,
Hey, what?
this is a bit of a sudden question, but I think you'll have a couple of immediate answers for this. When you were at WMS, what were some of the disgusting parasocial relationships and boundary crossing that they did?
Oh, god damn. Oh,
There's one
yeah.
I can bring up for you.
Do it.
Your boss would do the performative thing of basically like building social standing through the team, and if people weren't laughing at his shitty jokes,
Oh,
you were
God,
fucking
the shitty joke
ostracized.
vibe was so
What,
bad.
what is it, the 50s? Seriously?
Oh, but you have no idea.
Tell it, baby.
Shitty joke vibe, that like you're on the Brady Bunch set is like weird, and then like you have to laugh at everything and play along, or else you're a fuddy duddy. It's.
I'm very good at boss schmoozing. That's really my skill.
I mean, honestly, the boss was cool, but I guess he was responsible for that environment. But whatever.
All right, I want to. We have. Well, not I want to. We got one last topic, but Dragor, you should introduce it. You have the most stakes in it.
Okay, so I'm gonna scroll up.
It vaguely relates to everything else too.
I am. I want to find the Peter Coffin tweet that started this whole thing.
Oh boy.
While they're pulling up that tweet, let me vaguely explain the situation. So, like,
Okay, I got it.
I don't want to get parasocial about it, but Peter Coffin is a leftist person on the internet that I enjoy the opinions of, and I say it carefully because I don't want to be like, Peter Coffin is a person I like, because that's not what I like.
For the record, Pepper,
We're trying to get away from
I
that.
have seen videos of theirs before and enjoyed them. So, yeah, like I have enjoyed their content before. So, but I do have issue with a lot of things they say as well. So,
Sure. Well, that's also the value of me not saying I like as a person, as a human. It's like, oh, this thing they wrote. But they had a tweet talking about being.
So I've got the
Dragor,
tweet.
You
I'm going to read the tweet. So Peter Coffin, and I do not follow Peter Coffin. I've seen a video here and there, and it seems to line up with a lot of leftist stuff I'm into. Other than that, I don't know that much. And that's part of my point of bringing this up.
Right.
Because it also exposes, Twitter problems. But Peter Coffin says the idea of a, quote, vegan world, unquote, is not just impractical, but it's also imperialist. My initial comment to this to Xander and Pepper was paraphrased. This is where I scratch my head and go, this sure sounds like you're willfully ignoring what I said that was an exaggeration, what a lot of ethical vegans want. And how Pepper read into that was very different than what I got out of it, in part because Pepper understands where Peter Coffin's coming from. So,
Well, also for context, I realize when I read these things, and everyone else should know that I acknowledge this, Peter phrases shit on Twitter to start fights. Like, specifically, he phrases things to be as conflicty as
gosh,
possible.
no wonder
So-
why you like him.
But does that justify
kind of
it is the question.
No, so my point, so the original thing, so like Xander saying, like, does that justify it? So from my personal standpoint, and this will be the kickoff for us to go, is, all right, so you have vegan world in quotes, so that's a generalization, but the the meat of it is
Ayo.
no dead animals and also no animal products. I am not fully on board with a vegan world. I am more of a vegetarian world. And then saying that it's impractical is odd because the science basically counters that regularly. And that it being imperialist was one of the weirder ones for me. But I'm also an anti-theist, so like, what are you advocating for? And I think I understand. So the reason there are a lot of Pepper, do you want to lay the groundwork for where I understand he's coming from? Because the
I don't wanna sound
capitalist
like I'm-
vegan activism explains this, explains why he said imperialist.
Yeah, the only reason I say the thing I said before is just because I don't want to sound like I'm defending the wording or phrasing of things.
Right.
And I don't want to seem like, oh, I'm going to go to every corner of logic to make sure this tweet is acceptable.
But
That's not what I'm trying to do.
You phrased
I'm just
and
trying to
gave
pull value
context
from it.
to where he's coming from in a way that I did not know.
Well, I think there's two different parts of when people hear the word vegan, what the hell we're even talking about. Because I think on one hand, there are the vegan, the ideals and morality and ethics involved with it. Like one part, what vegan is, which is not consuming animal products and being against animal cruelty. Like that's why, right? Most vegans don't eat it because of the cruelty involved. Being against animal cruelty is very different from the Dole company packaging and marketing capital V vegan. Consume, buy your subscription to vegans today.
Yes.
And that concept, when you throw out the word imperialist, it's like, okay, I kind of can see the angle we're coming
Well,
from.
so
here,
draw the
as
line
opposed to,
if you want, or otherwise I'll make an attempt, and Xander, you're free to as well. Like, why did he say that the idea of that is imperialist? This is foundational to the argument.
oh, it's because vegan shit's expensive. It's a consumer. If you view it as a consumer identity and an excuse for companies, corporations, and we all know that. So a part of that is like, whoa, why would I buy from that company? We all acknowledge that the same couple of companies control all of food in America.
Well, like-
And I've heard interviews where they talk about the vegan stuff makes some money, and then once they have that money, they'll take that money from the vegan shit you bought and use it to expand their factory cow torturing operations. And there's nothing you can do to stop or even know if they do that or not.
I don't know if we got rid
So
of
not
capitalism,
wanting
we
to
get rid of meat eating right away, or if that would affect it though. So that's
If we
where
paid the
I'm
real
coming from.
prices, like if capitalism and subsidies weren't a thing, and you were paying real prices for meat and animal products that are made ethically, the price of those things would be so high such that unless you were incredibly well-to-do, you could not afford to have it with the regularity we do today.
Yeah.
And the other half is that vegetables would be way cheaper.
Yes. So the last
The
part,
other half
sorry,
of that.
I was trying to get you to say something, Pepper, that we kind of went
Oh, what?
into. So in particular, the capitalism stealing of vegan as a brand is also imperialist because especially if you're in Canada, but this is incredibly true in the United States, capitalism pushing veganism is absolutely fucking over and is basically doing a disinformation campaign against any tribes or native folk
yeah.
in the lands.
If you eat meat, you must be bad. And no, it's if you're eating vegan, you probably have at least slightly more money than like not that you have to be rich to. I remember the meme that like my vegan lunch cost $1.95, but I guess that's too much. But it's the idea that you can like bootstrap your way out of all of the ethical things that I agree with vegans. Also, another thing I want to say, just so it's on tape, I think vegans, when it comes to the moral and ethical and the planetary, how factory farms are like also contributing massively to climate change, like more than each of us individually driving cars. Like consumer automobiles do far less than cow farts do to the air. So they're right. I agree with vegans and their moral, economic goals. I agree with also. I think that has been aped by companies who know that people with a little more money and can have the time to even think about what they're eating.
Pepper, here's where I worry, because like I always worry when I get people like that's totally a fucking. Forgive me, but it's totally a fucking Nazi argument. They'll be like, you trust the company's going woke. Like, yes, the companies are going woke, so they're Nike's doing this, and they're giving in to people taking the knee and stuff like that. So that's totally like one of the arguments they use. You can't trust capitalism because they'll for what they're doing. So when I hear that, it does remind me of that. So I don't. So here's what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's necessarily if capitalists do a quote unquote good thing. If I could boil this down to the most bare shit, like when they take a stand for LGBT rights and stuff like that, it's not necessarily, yes, it should be distrusted, but it's not necessarily inherently bad. And I guess that's where I come from when I hear, it's imperialist. It's like, is it?
Coors advertises at gay pride parades. There's a Coors table at our local thing.
Yeah.
Coors donates a lot of money to anti-LGBT causes. Like,
Well, and that's one where like
that,
they should be
but
kicked
vegans.
out and not allowed. And that's why
Yeah.
who was the alcohol maker? Oh shoot, they make a rye that I don't have anymore because fuck them.
Jim Beam, Jack Daniels.
Yeah, but if a company does a
Bullet.
good thing for the gays, good. I guess. I don't know.
So Bullet, back in the day, they're called, they were bootleggers. So like, fuck yeah to shitty government. Hell, I support bootleggers in that topic. And one of the family owners, or like the whole family, they hate the gays. And one of their, it is a family business. One of the daughters or people in it, forgive me if I have the details wrong, but I think lesbian or just, not straight.
Sure.
And either left or was pushed out, or it's some gray area like that. And like, you're an alcohol company. Who gives a shit? Why would you donate? Why would you use your company as a platform? And like, this gets into what Pepper specifically is saying. It's like, whether you're using your company for a platform for good or evil, that you're doing it at all means capital is driving the message.
True. It's kind of, yeah, we do want to, it's why we want to keep the big fucking weird companies out of furry, right?
Yes.
Do we want nicer corporations in charge, or do we want corporations out of power?
I want corporations not in control, but until we get there, corporations participating in visibility is directly going to lead to less suicides.
It's true.
Let me do one more little philosophical, the way I'm framing my thinking.
Yeah.
So this is, no one take any of this personally. I'm going to speak about nebulously the liberals. So we know that we know that most American, like, liberalism is the prevailing ideology of the entire, what we call the Western world, like Western Europe, Canada, U.S., a lot of Mexico. It's all liberals, like normal capitalist country, Japan, liberals. It's just, do the market, follow the rules, you get ahead. And we criticize right-wing liberals or Republicans for talking about bootstrapping your way out of problems, where your individual responsibility, your individual contribution can somehow overcome all of the systemic weights on you. It's not that the entire country and like your generational poverty and you were born without an education, or you were born without a frontal lobe, whatever. It's not that. It's you just have to work harder and get your job, and then you can overcome all of these disadvantages through work.
Hey, Dragger.
The left. Oh, go and do. Yeah.
Dragger, what was the worst lib shit you heard recently? I'll say it if you don't want to.
I don't remember. Say it.
People just have to wait. The smart, good people have only been in charge for a couple months now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That is a thing that we actually heard.
The left liberal version, like bootstrapping ideology, absolutely exists on the left liberal spectrum as well, or the Democrats. Except instead of being work harder to overcome your problems, they at least acknowledge that that's kind of bogus. But it's instead buy better, and you individually can have can impact social issues. The idea of the way you spread rights is by buying different things, which still just recoups all of your revolutionary energy into giving money to the people with all the money.
Well, and it's not even necessarily revolutionary energy. It's their target demographic are people that are libs, but you have this Bernie Sanders movement. Cat's out of the bag. We're talking about it, and we're going to keep talking about it. It ain't going anywhere. Andrew Yang was on the national stage and talking about UBI. It's there. You can't ignore it. You have to do something about it if you want to maintain the status quo. So the other energy they're tapping into is it's hard work to do a lot of those things. So if you can get that brain juice for, I did something. It's not as much as I could do. Of course, it's not as much as I could do.
I bought this smoothie
but I
instead
did
of that
something.
smoothie.
I bought my way into activism.
Man, I wish there was a way, like a certain person that we could give enough money to that they would fix things. But it's just a fantasy. It's like we might as well be like, oh, if we give Elon Musk all our money, he, a smart and good boy, will fix
right?
Earth. A lot of people think that. A lot of people really think that's what will happen. Like, they think he's going to save the world.
And like, and my issue with that as well is it's a fundamental rejection of what is actually going on. How many articles do I have to put forward on how abusive his companies are? Well, ends justify the means. He's going to bring this communications network and fix all this stuff. I'm like, yes, those things are good, but how it's happening is anti-democratic, and there's abuse in the companies where it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Bezos and them think they're genuinely helping people. Like, we saw that last Twitter thing where they were like, look, we are... my favorite tweet was, if you want to hear Bernie Sanders talk about $15 an hour, you can come to his speech. If you want to get paid $15 an hour, become an Amazon employee. Which drives me fucking insane, because when they did that price increase, they did it while simultaneously removing bonuses completely from those employees. So they had a net loss in income.
Yes.
But they still get to wave around their $15 cock. And I see other randos on the internet going, Amazon is a liberal company, and I'm like, I wish you knew what the word liberal meant, because you're correct, but what they mean is they think they're saying communist. They think, oh, Amazon is a communist company who is paying their employees, and you start to remember that we don't live in the same dimension.
Yeah. Hey, I've talked about it before, but I went through the gamut of interviewing at Amazon years ago, and I have never felt more dehumanized in my life.
They're succeeding in messaging. People are convinced, I guess, with this weak ass shit that Amazon is somehow like Amazon and Bernie Sanders are in the same team, like in a good 40% of your average American's minds, apparently.
The only way Jeff
Like
Bezos is a
war.
good guy is if his head rolls or if he actually just stops.
Remember how he stepped down as CEO, and my theory was he was sick of getting shit on all the time publicly, and then the second he steps down as CEO, it comes out that he was the one telling Amazon News to get really snarky and start fighting with senators and stuff,
Yes.
which backfired horribly.
Yes.
It's like, yep, that is exactly why he did it. He didn't want to get shit on anymore, so he stepped down as CEO, so now he can culture war, so he can fucking union bust without as many rules.
I don't know what the thing is. It's weird. For some reason, every time in history, a few people have all the power. Things are shit. It's really weird.
It's the new Carnegie and whoever the other ones were,
Yeah.
Ford.
Yeah,
and-
except the governments were actually more effective at handling them before.
Ford. I think the same way that we all managed to teach children with a straight face that was it not Gerald Ford? Who
Henry
was the Ford
Ford.
that actually made the cars?
Henry
That Henry
Ford.
Ford was like a. I was told in school that Henry Ford basically made America, and we need to thank Henry Ford for everything that we have today as
Jesus.
Americans, because he invented the assembly line. Then you become an adult and you find out that all he cared about was telling people how the Jews are ruling the world and gonna kill it. Like, he was a QAnon guy circa the turn of the century.
Henry Ford's
and
a
I
piece
think
of shit.
Bezos.
Kellogg,
Bezos is going to be taught in schools as the new Ford. If things don't change, it'll be like, oh, you see, then Bezos made America, and with his own two hands.
breakfast cereal, and Kellogg, like the brand. The guy who founded all of that was an anti-masturbation religious nut job and made
jerking
breakfast
off.
cereal to get people to jerk off less. This guy is basically one of the worst human beings ever to have lived, because the harm that he started is perpetuated to this day.
Frosted
really bad. And the weird
flakes,
thing, Dragon,
don't
is-
touch your dick.
I want to say this. The powerful only trust each other in that way. Like, they only trust each other that they'll another one from that group. And
But it's not just them. It is all humans have the ability to like that. This gets back to it is tribalism, and the rich are a tribe. And there are
Absolutely.
different levels of rich and circles in those tribes. And you got to be careful, because if you have a lot of money but not enough to outrank the fact that, you're not white or male.
how many people do we? Yeah, how many people do
Martha
we know that
Stewart got fucked over so hard
Yeah.
compared to all of the white men that walked free doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which Eric Idle
Well,
did
we're
a great song, Fuck You the FCC, which has a line about that in it, and I love it dearly.
Oh, nice.
We're about at the end of our session. Jeez, what do we want to finish
We're at the
things
end
up
of the
with? We have
lip
like
shit section.
Okay,
We're-
so we're doing a segment here.
Shit.
This is the new segment, and this is the fight against futility. Every time we have done one of these episodes, the general feeling I have is, wow, we as three people, and even as all of the furry fandom, is there really anything we can do? So, what
No one
can
wants to hear my answer.
we do? My answer is, within the realms of capitalism, any job I'm going to hold, I am at least going to draw those boundaries. I am going to do what I can to lessen the harm in hiring practices. I'm going to do what I can to lessen the harm of messaging. We went through an acquisition and had new owners. And some of the original messaging of the new owners, no one was really saying it, but they felt it. And I'm like, these three things they said there are probably lies. And until they come forward and clarify with actionable policies to say otherwise, I'm assuming they are lies. And I'm going to keep saying that in every company meeting that we are being lied to. I didn't get fired, fucking miraculously. And their messaging changed because enough people went, yeah, actually, we agree with Dragor. We don't believe this. We don't want to be part of this.
Wow.
And so, like, is that changing capitalism? No. Am I affecting change in my immediate circle of existence? Yes.
That's why I like the Anarcho-Syndicalism. You're helping the people around you that you can actually affect, because that's all you can do, and it sure feels a lot better than screaming at national politics.
That's why boots on the ground is better than tweeting. I mean, there's just
We gotta tweet harder.
harder.
If we tweet hard enough, Biden will listen and do the exact opposite of all the things he's doing now.
Xander, what's something you either like already do as far as boundary drawing, or what's something you're looking to do? What is your affecting positive change that we can end today on?
Fuck. A hope spot.
These count as our last
We call
minutes,
that a
dude.
hope spot in wrestling.
Would
Fuck.
you like me to give you a prompt because
Yes,
you've been
please.
talking about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Both through how you learned about your situation and have
Yes.
identified in Trans Visibility Day.
Yes.
You have had people reach out to you. So do you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. So I've been very, very open about everything I've been going through. I thought about not doing that, but this is furry. Everyone knows everything, and well, the funny thing is, I have been openly sexual since the start because
It's
I
okay.
thought it
You
was
can
an
say you're
art
horny.
thing. What's up?
You can say you're horny.
I'm a
Those cornflakes aren't
horny
working.
Durgan. And I was drawing this shit before I knew furries actually got together and hung out. I did not know that part until years later. Like, I went through 2 years of college just seeing furry art on the internet, not realizing people got together. So there was already stuff of me out there. I did not make that decision whether or not to have that part of me out there, which is interesting. So there's already adult stuff of me out there. So that boundary I never had a chance to ever put up, which is both a blessing and a curse. So it is interesting. So, but that it taught me what was interesting about that. I did drawings on these blue guppy okaki boards about coming out to my family and dealing with homophobia at work, and people really connected to that stuff. And it really, I started realizing they said that affected them, and I was like, oh shit, like, you know. And then when I came, well, as you said, from what just seeing someone being visible, and then me coming out and people saying I too did not know that was available, and it just it happened. I don't mean to brag, 8 to 10 times of people coming to me saying, and just giving a base level information of like the WPATH requirements changed 2 years ago to made it transition available to non-binary folks and stuff like that. Just that base level of information that not everyone knew. I didn't know as of February. So that's my ramble.
Yay. Pepper. What is your...
Oh, we're talking about what to do, or like what can we do in live action thing?
Well, like, what are you personally, like, already doing? What is something you have done, or what is something specific that you want to do?
Ooh, so the way I've been making myself feel better recently, and hopefully have been affecting more direct change on the world, is I've started. I used to just give donations to charities who were generally accepted, but the more I've watched, like, wow, we sure watched when I say Black Lives Matter, I don't mean the idea of black life having value. That is separate from the company, the registered entity that is BLM, like, incorporated and takes in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Watching them just take in tons of money and then use that money to then send me letters to ask me for more money. What I'm saying is I've started just giving cash to people on the street who want cash, so that way I can guarantee they'll at least use it on fucking drugs or booze for them and not to mail me 15 other brochures asking me for that same $20 again. I've been trying to, like, the number of people whose cars I've jumped in the last month is almost funny. Like, it's almost like it seems like I'm going looking for them, but I've just jumped 3 people whose cars were dead, like, in parking lots.
Nice.
After the first one, I just went and got jumper cables. I'm like, people need this. It costs me $0 to do this, and it's very easy. And if you've ever had a dead battery, someone who jumps you might as well have just come down as God themselves for how, like, oh my God, thank you so much. You've saved my entire life by just, like, sticking your battery on my car's battery.
Yeah.
And then try to give someone a human version of a jump. Just, like, talk to people around you, assure them that they're not losing their minds, that we do live in the same reality, and yes, the things that are happening are bad. That's all we do here. Is you can point at the problem all day, and I wish there was a thing where it's like, here is how you as a person can do. It's funny watching the John Oliver shows always end with, like, the call to action, and they're just getting it's like, call your senator.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because
right?
you know what he
Everyone is
wants to
realizing
say, and what he wants
it's
to
so
say
hopeless.
will draw the ire of the HB owners.
Refuse to work and shut down America's economy, so they must acquiesce to the requests of labor.
Yeah.
That is how you change things.
Now
Yeah,
that we've
general
noticed all
strike.
these
We aren't
terrible
gonna do it.
things, here's a penguin joke. Good night. Oh, fuck.
I like the stuff he shines spotlights on. Like, I appreciate that aspect.
Yeah.
Can keep pointing out to your friends gently how, wow, that's bad and doesn't have to be bad. Why is it so
I
bad?
think he does as much as he can, and like if he did any more, he'd be fucked. Like, unfortunately, because he's on HBO.
Well,
And then he's just the presenter. It's like a team of 20 writers and various people who are all represented by the
right,
royalty.
but okay. So let's. How much time do you have, Pepper?
Let's end the show. Let's end the show 4 minutes ago. I agree.
Oh, all right. We'll end. That'll be a rant for a different time. Remind me. I want to rant about John Oliver, Stephen Colbert, and Jon Stewart.
Sounds great.
Sure.
And it's not the way you think,
left-ish
because
media.
I adore all 3 of them.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. Oh, let's do for the edit. Let's do a goodbye.
I have
Dragor,
been
you
the
cascade.
impromptu quote-unquote host. I am Dragor.
I'm Xander.
I am Pepper.
Oh, I'm Xander.
This has been
With the 3, we
Last
could just
Minute
all yell them
Politics.
at once.
Thank you and good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.